place where we are spending more for less. And then we say we are out of recession.
That is why I said I will give the government 50% out and 50% not yet. Some other analysis have told you that it's a fragile, which means if we don't sustain the momentum presently, we might end up going back. But if the capacity of spending more money into the areas where they spent so far, that will be able to help us. Because for you to determine that we are out of recessions, you look at the general masses. What are their purchasing power?
The economic analyst suggests that government should double and sustain its commitment to improve investment in power, agriculture and industry to boost current momentum for achieving marked growth in the economy. That's Business News. I am Joy Uzo.
Thank you very much, Joy Uzo, for the business package. Next, we'll go to the front pages of today's newspapers to check out the headlines.
Yes, it's Monday. The headlines are buzzing, and Bayo Atuyobi is already seated to take a look at them with us. Good morning to you, Bayo.
Morning, Blessing. How was your weekend? Good morning,
well,
Kinsley.
Wonderful. We're here, part of it.
Good. The rains are back. Good
Yes,
morning, Nigeria.
All right, Bayo, pleasure to have you join us for the review segment. Let's begin at the review by taking a look at the front page of some of the papers that we have this morning. Let's start off with This Day. This Day, from top to bottom, says APC to submit restructuring framework to federal government, says Oyegun. Oyegun, of course, is the chair of the All Progressives Congress. ARIC shareholders filed 20 billion naira suit against federal government and Ethiopian Airlines. Details of that story can be found on page 49. Now, below the nameplate, soldiers invaded my home. Kanu claims and army denies. Of course, Nnamdi Kanu is a leader of IPOB. And 3 allegedly shot and many injured. That's the rider to that. Now, the photograph on the front page there shows Hurricane Irma taking its toll on Florida. That's, of course, it hit the state of Florida, with a Category 4 force. That's you see the photograph there of parts of Key Biscayne that was affected by the hurricane. Now, the lead story for this day says it's on the oil industry. Federal government and IOC stands for International Oil Companies, finalized evaluation of bids for $13.5 billion Zabazaba deepwater project. And 50% of FPSO to be fabricated and integrated in country. That's, of course, a boon to local content. And Shell to issue bids on Bunga Southwest Akparo project and Science Lagos gas distribution agreement. Another story just below that, it says states scored 69% in public expenditure reforms. That story is attributed to the Nigerian Governors Forum. That story is in greater detail on page 51.
Yeah. Okay, Kingsley, since Bayo already said the rains are back, it's more flood in other parts of, some parts of the country as well as other parts of the world. Now, for the Daily Trust, you have the photograph there in Cuba. Cubans wade through a flooded street in Havana yesterday. That's the photograph that is on the front page of the Daily Trust. But just above that is the leading story. Federal government agencies shun Nigerian satellites. Government loses 720 billion naira revenue. Story starts right there, continues on page 5. But just above that, the story you have Army Captain, Infant, 2 others killed in Kaduna robbery. All the details you find on page 4. Well, coming back down, we have presidency, no funds for complex emergencies. Details on page 3. And a story about shareholders filing a suit against federal government, Ethiopian Airlines over ARIC is right here too on the front page listed, but you find the details on page 19, the Daily Trust. Quickly now to the blueprint. 6,090 pilgrims arrived in Nigeria as 2 said to have died from Sokoto state. Page 5 will give you more details. Beware of El-Rufai, APC chieftain warns Buhari. All the details you find on page 9. Pro-power sector reforms. NLC tells federal government. And back to the story of Eric and with suit. Eric Air sues federal government, Ethiopian Airlines for 20 billion naira. All the details on page 14. Presidency earmarks 4 million bags of fertilizers for farmers by December. You find more details on page 13. Illegal artisanal refiners threatening Ogoni cleanup. This is coming from the presidency. More details on page 6. Leading for the blueprints this morning. Buhari's ministers bankrolled PDP National Convention. This is coming from ADP chair. Well, there is a writer to that. It's not true. It's from all the details on page 6. The photograph you have of there are two sets of photographs there. The one to the right, you have 6-year-old, well, that is crediting the story you have at the foot of the page. 6-year-old Boko Haram victim flown to Dubai for surgery. Well, that's the boy as well as the persons taking him to Dubai, just captured there. Okay, Bayo.
Yes, let's start with the human interest story. The 6-year-old boy, if you recall, suffered spinal cord injury when he was overrun by motorcycles belonging to Boko Haram soon after they invaded Chibok and carted away 273 girls. He has been flown abroad to United Arab Emirates for surgery. His plight was brought to the attention of most Nigerians, including the Senate President. They made contributions, but a public agency, Dixon Salon Foundation, contributed $48,000 of the $65,000 required for his surgery. The boy, who was kept under a tree soon after he suffered the trauma, was there for 3 days. The mother succeeded in carrying the boy home, and eventually attention was drawn and health is come the boy's way. And the boy was very optimistic. He said, "I want to walk again." He was very cheerful at the airport when people gathered and in sympathy prayed for his quick recovery.
Exactly.
Now, Nigeria...
That's right. Bayo, we wish him speedy recovery.
Yes.
You know, it's and the gesture of the organizers of the surgery, and of course the cost, you know, they are to be commended. The only point to raise here is whether local capacity was explored, you know, before the option to fly him out.
I was privileged to be at the airport yesterday at this to actually cover this, and one of the organizers said for 3 years the boy was just kept at home, no attention, no medical attention. So perhaps looking at the situation on hand at that time, getting across to all the medical personnel, well, I wouldn't know, but he was just kept at home for almost 3 years before somebody drew the attention about 3 months ago, and help has come the boy's way.
The good thing is that children recuperate very, very fast because they don't take all these things to mind. For them, everything is play.
Exactly.
If it were adults will worry about it, and the worrying increases the blood pressure and limits the chances of fast recuperating.
Yeah.
But he was cheerful, laughing about it.
I thought he was giving me thumbs up, and I said, "What would you want to do? What will you do once you get on the plane?" He said that in Hausa to me. It was interpreted. Said, I'm just going to be playing. So for me, that ignited the aspect of recovery, which is the life of a child for you.
All right, so Bayo, let's continue with it.
Yes, I was going to talk about the attention that has been drawn that federal government is grappling with paucity of funds, particularly to attend to man-made disasters as well as natural ones. And this lamentation was brought up by the Special Assistant to the President of Media, Garbashi. He lamented that the federal government gets only 1% from the ecological fund, and out of that, 20% go to National Emergency Management Agency for management of ecological challenges. However, state and local government get the highest of 1.4%, but each time there is a natural or man-made disaster, the cry you hear is, "Where is Buhari?" And he says that the challenge is that in a democracy, people must put pressure on the state and the local government. What are they doing with the ecological funds? A corollary to that is the worrying about Nigerian satellite. We have 3 satellites in orbit. There were 5. 2 have been deorbited. However, ministries, departments, and agencies that belong to government are not even patronizing Nigerian satellite. Consequently, the Nigerian satellite is finding it difficult to make ends meet. It is being reported that the procedure for satellite imaging data are mostly patronized by companies abroad rather than patronizing Nigerian companies. This is not a positive development at all. With the attitude and campaign for patronize and made in Nigeria goods, I think federal ministries, agencies, and departments must begin to patronize all our own. And what is it there for? There's that mentality that if it is Nigerian, it can be good. We must begin to challenge this
part of the explanation for the low patronage has to do with the fact that there's no what is called redundancy. In other words, there's no backup for the satellite. Yes, okay. That's been the explanation that they have given. But you have to begin from somewhere. And what is the guarantee that there has been failure of the satellite as it's being used currently by whatever size of patronage that we have? Let's take a look at the front page of Punch newspaper. Let's take a look. Punch is our next paper. Let's go to the front page of Punch and then see the headlines there. It's a busy front page. It says the headline is Buhari travels to U.S. next week, says presidency. Details of that story can be found on page 9. We can't disclose our allowances. That's according to the Senate. That's on page 10. And then panel begins military officers probe for alleged rights abuses. And then Al Hassan attacks Fani Kaude. Of course, you have all kinds of stories that have been swirling around since last week on that particular subject matter. 2 earpieces beside the nameplate, flawed. Dangote-led presidential panel donates 250 million naira to Benue. And then, of course, you have the story there on Arik. Federal government, the list story, federal government and states borrow 7.51 trillion naira under Buhari, and total debt now stands at 19.63. Then, of course, you have a number of other stories that on the side there, just beside the photograph. Let's go down to the bottom of the story, and let's go down to the bottom of the paper. There will be other headlines that we're seeing. Of course, that's already concealed by another publication. That's the ones that we can take by. Just get the comments, if any.
Yes, I was just going to say that the expectation that the doctors will call off their strike did not materialize. There was a memorandum of understanding signed on Tuesday. The NMA and NRD were supposed to get their acts together and call off the strike, but we are still waiting for them to respond.
Bayo, thank you very much. See you tomorrow, Tuesday.
Tomorrow will be another day.
It's Good Morning Nigeria still. We'll take a short break now. When we return, of course, we'll be dealing with the significance of the insurance industry and why the insurance industry, as it were, remains in an anemic state in Nigeria.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Winning in hot and dry conditions is hard. Causes the body to sweat, which attracts germs that are easily passed from one person to another.
What keeps you so cool, man?
Dettol Cool combines Dettol's protection and an invincible icy feel. For super cool confidence, use Dettol Cool.
That child should be in school, and that child should also be in school.
What is your business with what I do with my house help?
Your excuses are pathetically deficient.
and logically inadequate and inappropriate.
There is a guilty and selfish adult who has no scruples about depriving a child of education and robbing him of his future.
Now, don't go mind your business.
There is no school under a basin of groundnuts to be hawked or anywhere on the streets. Only danger. Early exposure to illicit behavior awaits a child on the street. This week, Professor John Bull takes a critical satirical look at children on the street. Keep it dates with us in the episode Street School.
Let my customer be. Don't harass him now.
This man is a child trafficker.
He doesn't come here every day.
Over and
Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network, Glow Unlimited.
Helen! You do great value shopping. Absolutely. I'm a champion at getting value.
Then you must have bought the Harpic 200 ml.
Why Harpic when I have this?
Even after applying them 10 times, they won't give a sparkling clean toilet.
Impossible.
Challenge. Detergent and bleach can't give a sparkling clean toilet even after 10 times. But Harpic 200 ml gives a sparkling clean toilet at one go.
Wow.
Harpic 200 ml. Real deal. Now only 200 naira.
Here's your order.
I think this is not exactly what we ordered. I ordered a Coca-Cola Zero.
No problem. I can give you 0 calories, 0 sugar, and a great Coca-Cola taste. Here's the Coca-Cola Zero you ordered.
Do it again.
You still look like you need a Coca-Cola. Why don't you sneak inside your bag?
Wherever you feel, together, together.
Enjoy.
If you just joined us, the program is Good Morning Nigeria, and time now to kickstart our conversation. Now, in spite of the importance of insurance industry to the economic development of any nation, the sector in Nigeria has continued to record low level of penetration. However, key players in the sector believe that the narrative might be changed for the better in due course in view of reforms being carried out in the sector. Let's find out more detail about this from Recapitalization Babatunde.
Insurance is a form of risk management that serves as a means of protection from financial loss. It is primarily used to hedge against risk. An entity which provides insurance is known as an insurer, insurance company, or insurance carrier. In insurance, the loss may or may not be financial, but it must be reducible to financial terms and must involve something in which the insured has an insurable interest established by ownership, possession, or pre-existing relationship. The insurance business in Nigeria began with the report of the J.C. Obande Commission of 1961, which was followed by other acts and decrees, such as the Insurance Companies Act of 1961, the Insurance Decree of 1976, the Insurance Special Supervisory Fund Decree of 1989, and other enactments. In Nigeria, the insurance industry adjudged as an underperforming one is regulated by the National Insurance Commission, NICOM. The Commission has come up with innovative ways of running the industry and placing it on a positive light before the public. But insurance has not been a favorite of Nigerians for obvious reasons. Low awareness, beliefs, and low confidence level are some factors militating against the rise of the sector. Some schools of thought believe the high cost of insurance packages is largely responsible for the poor participation by Nigerians. Others believe the government is not doing enough to engender active participation, while another group attribute it to the cumbersome procedure of accessing claims when the need arises. With rising cost of losses occasioned by floods, farmers and herders clash, fire disasters, accidents and other unforeseen circumstances, maybe it is time Nigerians pay more attention to this burden-reducing lifeline. But there are issues regarding this unexploited sector. Insurance penetration in the country is below 1% and contributes less than 1% to the nation's gross domestic product. On Good Morning Nigeria today, experts will be taking us through the rudiments of optimizing the potentials of the insurance industry.
Recapitalization Babatunde, thank you very much for that background report. Now, there are guests with us here in the Abuja studios as well as at our Lagos Network Center. First, we'd like to welcome at this time Mr. Titus Abe. Abe is the CEO of Livingstone Insurance. A pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And then we also have with us for the discussion this morning, Mamadou Musa Diouf is the CEO of Jay's Takaful Insurance. Mamadou Musa Diouf, a pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Thank you very much, brother.
Okay. We'll go over to our Lagos Network studios, where we also have another guest. We hope to have two guests there, but in the meantime, all right, the two guests are indeed in the studios already. First, let's welcome Francis Ewerido. Francis Ewerido is a chartered insurance broker and chief executive of Titan Insurance Brokers. Francis Ewerido, a pleasure that you are with us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Very much.
Okay, and also there with him is Ambassador Godson Echegile. Echegile is Managing Partner, Equitable Acquisition Limited. Of course, we are the first in actuarial science at the University of Lagos. Ambassador Echegile, a pleasure that you're with us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, we might as well begin the conversation from Lagos and then come back home. Although charity begins at home, bless him. Let's begin. Let's begin with Ambassador Echegile. You listen to the background report, and for the ordinary observer of the Nigerian economy, the somewhat arrested state of development of the insurance industry is writ large, as it were. After several decades, why is the insurance sector still in this rather worrisome state of development? Poor penetration, less than 1% contribution to the GDP.
Starting from independence and to somewhere around 2010, I think we've made some move, but not significant enough. We've grown from contribution of 0.4% to about 0.72%. Compared to other sectors, yes, the insurance sector is still lagging behind, primarily due to one, pricing of the product. Secondly, the depth of the market, the quality of the product, and some cultural issues in our economy. And I think until we address some of these areas, we're not likely going to see the kind of contribution we expect insurance to contribute to the national GDP. Secondly, the quality of manpower, the capital structure of the insurance companies. These are all the issues that we need to address to get the desired result. We've moved from capitalization of the insurance company, we've moved a little upward, but I don't think that's still enough to carry the kind of risk we're looking at. You mentioned the flood disaster in some of the states. You mentioned the agricultural crisis and the need for government intervention. Insurance is simply pulling off risk to that level where in event of a misfortune, you could be placed in a position you were before that incident. And in doing that, we require appropriate pricing of the product so that when we pull the product, that is the participant in that basket, will have enough from the premium to pay for losses and have enough return for the investors in the insurance companies. But right now, we are far, far, far from that. And the only way we try to manage that is excessive pricing. That is, the prices are not commensurate with the product we are getting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Echegile. Well, we still remain in Lagos. You have seated close by, Mr. Francis Ewerido. What is, in your own opinion, is still the reason or the reasons for this low performance of the insurance subsector to the nation's development?
Very much. Number one, I would say culture. We don't have the insurance culture in this part of the world. I was watching, was it CNN? When a black community, a very poor neighborhood in America, they went on rampage. Why? Because the insurance companies refused to give them cover. They said insurance ensures uncertainty. But in the case of this black neighborhood, they said there's so much violence there. So they are setting risk. The people are going to get killed. There are going to be vandalization of property. People are going to get injured. So they simply refuse to give them insurance cover. Yet it's a poor neighborhood. But what happens is that the culture is already there. We don't have that kind of culture. So that's one area where we need to do a lot of work. Because all the stakeholders, the insurance professionals, the government can come in. I think part of it is what we are doing here, the media, and then the other stakeholders. And then we also have the issue of enforcement. We have about 5 or 6 compulsory insurances, but the enforcement is very, very low. Right now, it is believed, for instance, that only 1 out of every 8 vehicles on Nigerian road, plain Nigerian road, has genuine insurance. And I traveled home to Delta recently, and then I was looking at my in-laws' insurance documents. I found out that the insurance certificate, motor certificate he had was fake. The company that the company that issued it was Linkshore Insurance Limited. There's no company like that in Nigeria. And to think that that document and other motor documents that he purchased or got were purchased for about 35,000 naira. The motor third-party insurance costs 5,000, just 5,000 naira only. But you find out that it's been faked all over the place. And most of the faking takes place in government offices, at the local government and the state level. So we have the issue of enforcement. How many people who have public buildings or occupy public buildings have occupiers liability insurance? How many people are constructing buildings that are above 2 stories take builders liability insurance? How many medical establishments have professional indemnity for their negligence and errors? So these are issues. I can assure you, for instance, that if there's enforcement of the compulsory insurances, what we currently generate as premium will quadruple. Because what we generate right now is still under $2 billion. It can jump to $8 billion just by enforcing compulsory insurances. Of course, the industry will have our own issues. We need to do a lot of things to make sure there's penetration. Because I was looking at the research finding, and I found out that most of the 74% of Nigerians, the reason they don't have insurance is because some said they don't understand it, some said they don't know the benefits, and the rest said they don't know how to access it. Only about 12% complained about claims. So these are the issues that professionals in the industry need to deal with. But government, we need a lot of help from government. And as we go on, I think we'll be able to talk about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ewe Rido. Now back to the Abuja studio. We have our guest still seated. We have the CEO, Titus, Livingstone Insurance, Titus Abe, and also Mamadou Musaju. Let me start with you, Mamadou Musaju.
Yeah,
so, guys, they've actually talked about their own reasons for seeing the insurance sector still in this state. Do we truly have a culture to actually insure here in Nigeria?
Thank you, Sister Blessing. Good morning, Nigeria. Yes, I think the regulators, NICON, are doing all their best to increase penetration by introducing the system that I'm heading, Takaful, into the industry. Because the culture, when you consider the culture, we say part of the culture is some of the reasons which make some sector of the population to shy away from conventional insurance. Insurance penetration is not only low penetration, it's not only to Nigeria, but the African continent at large, with the exception of South Africa. But some of the reasons that would have kept people away from conventional insurance is what we are coming to address. That is, people would say, I mean, we don't know the benefits. But here, with the system of insurance that we're introducing as approved and authorized by NICON, is participation, profit sharing. That is to say, insurance operates on the law of large numbers. They collect premiums, and these premiums are used to settle claims and admin expenses, pay brokers and the like. But the question has always been that I insure my new vehicle, but I run away from, I do everything possible not to get involved in an accident. If I do not get involved in an accident, at the end of the year, I still have to go and pay for another term. So some people had seen it that is unfair. But the system of Takaful comes to say, no, we collect your premium from 5 million people. At the end of the year, we pay 1,000 people, 1,000 claims. The rest of the money, which we should have considered as a company as profit, must be distributed to those participants or to those clients who have not suffered losses during the course of the year. So that this way you are saying, with that single premium, same cost, you are paying to cover your house, your insurance, your farm, whatever. At the end of the year, when you do not suffer losses, you stand in the shoes of an investor to share the profit of the company. As an operator, the Takaful operator sees themselves as operators who are actually custodians.
Yeah, well, Mamadou, the point is, Takaful is probably still in its infancy. But in spite of that, we still have seen a low penetration of less than, no, not penetration now, we're still seeing less than 1% of the insurance subsector to the country's GDP. Other than the cultural factors, what else, in your opinion, impedes the growth of the insurance industry in the country?
That's exactly what I am saying. That some sector, let's name it, some members of society who sees themselves to be practicing Islam would not participate in conventional insurance for the simple reason that the reasons Islam shies away from it is that it resembles too much like gambling. You may suffer a loss or you may not suffer a loss. You suffer a loss, you benefit. You do not suffer a loss, you lose your money. Then there is interest, which Islam does not side with. There is ambiguity, the uncertainty. But with Takaful now, it is saying it's open to all, not only to Muslims. We are encouraging participation. All successful economies in the world must be backed by a successful insurance industry. So that Nikon, as regulators, are now trying to say that sector which was neglected, we are giving them an alternative for more insurance penetration. If you believe in, if you do not buy in the conventional, then we have given you an avenue called Takaful that you can come on board.
All right, Mamadou, thanks. We'll come back to you. Titus Abe, of course, you'll listen to the other guests with regard to the factors that account for the state of the insurance industry at the moment. Anything else to add? Or just take us so that we move on to the next level to explore in greater detail some of the points that have been articulated.
Yes, I would just like to add a few things, probably one or two. Well, one of the issues we are having such a low penetration of insurance in this country is simply because of our attitude to insurance. I think it's high time Nigerians have a paradigm shift in the way we think, in the way we perceive insurance. By the time we start seeing insurance as peace of mind, to go a long way, you know, to improve things. That's what I just want to add.
Attitude and the way we perceive it, how do Nigerians perceive it generally different from what listed already?
Well, an average Nigerian does not want to do insurance, does not want to part with his money. He would rather use his money for other things. But it's so unfortunate that those other things that you prefer to use your money on are not as important as securing yourself. That's why I said the moment you start seeing insurance as peace of mind, then it will be easy.
How does insurance give you peace of mind? I mean, I'm asking this question perhaps rhetorically. I remember the payoff line in one advertisement that I used to listen to about 30 years ago. The insurance, it was outside this country, by the way. Insurance company would say, you know, its name and say, you never know what's going to happen. That was a payoff line. But how does insurance give you peace of mind? And why would a rational economic being say, listen, I don't want that peace of mind, let me spend my money on other things?
Okay, thank you very much. You know, when you have an asset, for example, say a car, now apart from the minimum statutory third party that is compulsory for everybody to have. You just had my colleague in Lagos said earlier that 1 out of 8 vehicles on the road are actually carrying fake. Well, by the time you know that if this car is involved in an accident, whether it's a fault of yours or otherwise, you know that there is a cover in place for you in such a way that if you acquire a liability to another road user, you discover that you don't have to start on the road, start fighting each other, boxing and all that. All you just need to do, put a call through to your insurance company, and they come to your rescue. So that's exactly what I mean by, by the time we start seeing insurance as peace of mind, to be easier for us.
Well, thank you. Well, Abe, we'll come back to you. Let's return to Lagos. You saw the two gentlemen with us. Ambassador Echegile, well, one of the aspects that we also will need to discuss, in years past, Titus Abe here has indicated that, listen, if you had the misfortune of getting involved in an accident, say for motor vehicle insurance, you contacted your insurance company, and then it's as easy as that. But the experience always was that, getting your claims was like trying to get the head of a camel through the eye of a needle. Did this also contribute to population resistance to insurance? I mean, there were all kinds of things about the so-called small prints which the law has tried to take care of. What, in your opinion, we already talked about, are the other cultural factors, socio-cultural, that impede the growth of insurance in this country?
Let's look at it from the point of a product, a man selling a product. I must see value in the product I'm buying. If I don't see value in the product I'm buying, I'm not likely going to repeat the purchase. And you ask, why do people not repeat the purchase? I don't think it's cultural or religious. We've seen big Muslim nations like Indonesia and Malaysia where we've seen penetration close to 10%. It's the same religion that we practice here, they practice in Malaysia or Indonesia. I think the bulk of the problem, I would say, is on the practitioners to package their product in such a way that it will be attractive to the buyer by way of pricing, by way of addressing specific needs of the buyers. The second issue my colleague raised is faking. We've seen that in other sectors of our economy. It's not only in insurance. We saw that in NAFDAC. And the leadership of NAFDAC woke up to the situation, and they were able to reduce faking of food and drug. So the regulators of insurance and the practitioners of insurance should go a step further to check faking of those compulsory insurance policies. We have software, technology has gone much, much further than that. So I lay the blame purely on the desk of the practitioners who want government to solve all the problems. The government can't have police policing all motor insurance. The practitioners should come together, design a system that will check faking of third-party motor insurance. Thirdly is the issue of pricing. How do we come to pricing? You pull the resources, that is the contributors to that common pool. The more they are in number, the lower the price, because it's from there that you pay the claims. And all this sticky claim payment, they are coming from the low margin that the insurance companies are having. If we simplify the claim process such that I can walk in today with my claim and within 48 hours get settled, it's not a question of you advertising it. I need to experience it. So it still goes back to the practitioners to do a lot more to convince the end user that, yes, you get value for your money.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Echegile. Let's also get the views of Mr. Francis Owerido, who is right there with you at the studios. Now we've talked about most of the factors that contribute to this. What can be insured? In other words, I mean, there's talk of insurable interest, but what can be insured and what are we seeing in terms of what is being insured in the Nigerian economy?
Virtually everything can be insured, from assets to your life, children's education, your phone. Just about everything can be insured as long as it has value. And like you said, this has an insurable interest. Let me just add that part of the problem we have is that many Nigerians do not understand how insurance works. In this industry, you have the insurance companies who are the underwriters or the risk bearers, as you observed earlier. And then you have the insurance brokers who are the intermediaries. And then, of course, you have the loss adjusters, the agents, and the reinsurance companies. But let me concentrate on the risk bearers and the intermediaries now, which is the insurance company and insurance broker. Insurance is technical. It has been greatly simplified. Note that the small prints are off. Policy documents are a lot simpler these days. But insurance is still technical. So personally, I would advise anybody who wants to take an insurance policy, just as you don't go to a law court to defend yourself, you get a lawyer to defend you. Go through a broker. The broker is your agent. It's like he works for you. And then the broker will help you source, which having known your needs, we go to the market, get the best deal for you at the best price. And then we close the deal for you. And then we will manage the account for you. And if there's a claim, people talk about claims. All my clients, none of my clients knows where the insurance company that underwrites their risk are. None of them. Because everything we do for them, including the claims payment. When there's a claim, we process everything, and the only thing, once we sign the discharge voucher or they sign the discharge voucher, the next thing they get an alert, and the claim is paid. So if people understand how the process works, it will help substantially. Because, and the other problem is that Nigerians don't read policies. They don't read documents. I encountered somebody who had a motor policy, comprehensive motor policy, is vowed never to insure again. What happened? The driver absconded with his vehicle, and then he went to the insurance company, and then the insurance company refused to pay the claim. They repudiated the claim. And then when he brought it to my notice, I said, okay, bring the policy document. He brought it, and I sift through, and then I showed him a portion where there's a fidelity guarantee exclusion clause, which says that this insurance policy does not take care of the infidelity or dishonesty of your employees. There is a more appropriate policy that takes care of that, and that is fidelity guarantee insurance. Normally, insurance is like a relay race. One policy starts from here and ends at a certain point. Another one takes it from there. So if this man had a broker, the broker would have drawn his attention to that clause, and all he would have done would have been to do due diligence with the driver he was employing, maybe do police profiling, get to know where the driver comes from, so that if he absconds, and they get a guarantor, so that if the way he absconded, the guarantor is held responsible. That is not in place. That was not in place. Another problem they have with motor insurance is the excess. Somebody says he insured his vehicle comprehensively, and then he has a claim of 100,000 naira. And then there's an excess clause there which says that the insurance company, that the insured, that is the policy holder, will be responsible for 10% or 30,000 naira, whichever is lowest or lower of the claim. And then when it comes, the insurance company pays him 70,000, and he becomes his own insurer for the remaining 30,000, and then he begins to raise dust that he has been shortchanged. But if he also had a broker, he would have drawn his attention to it. I would have advised him to have an excess buyback, which comes at about 40% of the insured sum. That would have ensured that the insurance company will pay the full value of the claim. But most of the time, ordinary people don't know this, and the only people who can guide them are brokers. So I would advise anybody taking an insurance policy to get a broker. All the big companies, they go through brokers. So the small, the ordinary people should also go through brokers. That is my own take there. Thank you.
Mr. Francis Owedo, thank you very much for your explanation. But just before we return to the Abuja studios, let's just stay with the Lagos guest, Ambassador Cheyile. You listen to some of the challenges, again, articulated by Mr. Francis Owedo. He says that insurance is technical, very technical, no question about that. You are an expert in actuarial science, and that's perhaps even more technical. For us as a people, I mean, considering who we are and where we are, do Nigerians have the patience to go through all of this, 30% your contribution, the other one, fidelity insurance, and all kinds of... If you tell that to a Nigerian, say, what does this mean? And then there's somebody by the roadside who says, come and get this thing for 3,000 naira, your vehicle insurance, we'll put your name. If you want 5,000, that's when your name will enter the computer, as they say it, and so on and so forth. Who has the patience for all of this?
I think it comes back to the issue of explaining the product you are selling. In terms of manpower development, I think this is the area the government will need to come in. Let's grow more insurance professionals that can explain this thing in a common man's language. If you come to maybe the tertiary institutions, I think apart from UNILAG today, you have no Department of Actuarial Science and Insurance, any other university. If we can expand this, and the carrying capacity of UNILAG is so small compared to the size of Nigeria, if we expand this and get more lecturers, professionals to teach actuarial science and insurance, then they can produce more for the market, and this market then can have the required manpower to explain some of these policies. But the onus is on you selling the product, to simplify the product you are selling as much as possible, so that the man buying will understand what he is buying. So it comes back to the issue of the capacity of those marketing the product. If those marketing the product, they can package it in a way that you can buy it, then they've succeeded in selling. What is selling? Trying to let the other party see the value in what he's paying for. Education will go a long way in helping us solve, bringing the awareness to the common place, the common market, and the common man to know the value he would derive from procuring an insurance. But we need to go a little further. We don't throw all this to the government. The practitioners need to do their own bit of this. Like I said on the issue of third party, the insurance association, the insurance companies, or the body of practitioners should come together and say, we have these issues, how do we solve these issues? Then take it to the government. Where government can help, government will certainly help. But we need to do a lot more in simplifying the policies so that the common man can read and understand.
Ambassador Echejile, yes, it will appear, Mr. Abina, it will appear that there are definite loopholes that the practitioners themselves are actually letting off or just bearing there for some of the quacks, or by the wayside, people are cashing on the task of maintaining a vibrant and actually a very disciplined insurance sector, restorative practitioners. How much of it have you people cashed in to actually look into some of these areas of problems?
Okay. Well, that area has been problematic as far as I know. And it's something that it's not as bad as it used to be some years back, because the regulatory body, National Insurance Commission, are actually, up to the task, and they are doing their best to make sure that all these things are, arrested. Now, but be that as it may, we cannot, as practitioners, afford to leave everything in the hands of a regulator. There are definite rules that we need to play. And some of these rules involves, not only educating our clients and letting them to realize that, and for example, many people are not aware that if you put your car on the road without the minimum insurance third party, you could go to jail because of that. The law is there. But I don't think I've ever had anybody going to jail or being fined. I think the fine is about 250,000 naira and 3 years imprisonment. I don't think I've had anybody ever done that, despite that.
Those violations are usually settled.
Yes,
settled
on the street or somehow. Even the occupier's liability, if you have a house, minimum of 2-story building, you're supposed to have an insurance on it. And it also comes with a penalty, 200,000 naira fine, and 1 year, either 1 year or 3 years imprisonment, not even an option. But we all know how many of those houses around are insured. I dare to say even some government houses, some of them are not even insured.
Whose responsibility is it to enforce?
Sorry?
Whose responsibility is it to enforce?
Well,
compliance, to ensure compliance. To say, listen, your story, I mean, your structure is above 2 stories, you must get your, let's see, your insurance certificate.
Well, that's why I said earlier that we cannot afford to leave everything to the government. The industry itself has to take initiative. When we take initiative, we pull certain things together and we take it to the government. I'm sure the government will support. So, but when we are not doing that, well, the government probably is not going to go out of its way to do that on our behalf. So the initiative to be taken rests on, practitioners. And of course, we cannot leave out the role of the regulators on this matter. Though, like I said earlier, they've been up and doing, they've been trying. We are not where we used to be, but there is still, a lot that could be done in that area.
All right, thank you. Mamadou Musa Joe, let's get your view on this. I mean, there's a counterpunch provided by Ambassador Chegele indicating, for instance, that there are cultural factors, or cultural, social, or religious factors cannot be sufficiently pleaded because you have high insurance penetration in places like Malaysia and Indonesia. But what level of public awareness is still there? What level of public understanding, as it were, of the insurance industry is still there? I'm asking this question because if you were to drill down to the commonest incident, we're getting now virtually out of the rainy season. In some weeks, we'll be out of it, and then we're going to the dry season. And then you start having all kinds of fire incidents, particularly in marketplaces. And when there's a fire incident, we see the typical photographs, usually very heart-rending. They put their hands on their heads, they are crying because all their possessions, have been wiped out. And these are markets waiting for the insurance business. Why have the insurance companies failed to reach such, if we like, let me use the expression loosely, such grassroots potential market sources?
Well, my stand remains the same. In all that we are discussing, it appears these are the salient points. That is, value addition is necessary. As our brother, the actuary, said, we need to repackage. We need to repackage our insurance products so that the consumer sees more value in them. And in so doing, we are saying with Takaful, as an operator, you do not own the funds. The funds belong to the clients, the participants. You only charge a management expenses of 30% of income. And the pool is there for everybody. To settle claims, whatever remains goes back to the people who contributed. That is value addition. We are moving from transferring risk to risk sharing. You said, you asked earlier, where is the comfort, insurance being comfort to the consumer? The right answer, precise, is to say you transfer your risk. You've bought a vehicle. You have a risk of driving to your office on a daily basis. You get involved in an accident. And
the person gets involved in an accident.
The person gets involved. All right. The person gets involved in an accident.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Nothing will happen to you. We are saying the person gets involved in an accident, a total write-off, a total destruction of a vehicle, he has to struggle to buy another vehicle without insurance. But if insurance was in place, he goes to sleep because he knows that when there is that total loss, he has a fallback position on insurance to get paid.
Or what about the technicalities?
The technicalities is
fidelity
what I'm
and other
still
stuff.
saying
Yes.
now. If you look at Takaful, it is getting rid of all those technicalities. Since the fund belongs to the participants, it belongs to the clients. We have already taken 30% as our management expenses. We have an obligation to settle all claims, and we do not delay, because if the fund generates into surplus, it doesn't come to us, it goes back to them. So that claims are made simpler. In that way. Education, we are saying, yes, the broker said, well, let's advise or encourage consumers to go through brokers. That is the best practice, because soaps can wash any dirt, but they do not wash themselves. A soap can wash any dirt, but it doesn't wash itself. So I'm better off the professional broker talking about my services than me telling you about my services. They simply tell you that with this product in the market now, your contribution is yours forever. only part of it goes to settle their services. So that education should be jointly an industry a task. It's expensive going it on your own as an individual company to create awareness. So the industry, through the regulators and all that, all hands on deck, because the economy belongs to us. And the economic growth and the viability of the economy must be backed by a viable insurance.
Does Takaful have life insurance?
We cover everything. Life insurance, general insurance. And we are saying, therefore, enforcement also. We cannot see ourselves as an industry enforcing, going to the ground to say to the builder that your building is two-story building and you must have insurance. We have to be part of it, to appeal to the regulators who are agents of government, since the law is in place. If it has to be that the industry has to raise some kind of funding to support in the supervision and enforcement, let it be. But we already have seen that there is already a very current move in Lagos State, which is a timely move in the right direction, where they are coming up to see that enforcement is in place. And we have been meeting, the process is on, and by the time that one is successful, other states may follow suit.
All right.
And the enforcement, therefore, and regulation, and the government, we can only support through financial.
All right, Musa Juf, gentlemen, in Lagos and Abuja, as well as Lagos. We'll go on this break. When we return, we'll take a look at other areas. Do we need some form of repositioning, as already we are pointing out, recapitalization? What is the oil and the gas aviation sector actually doing in terms of insurance and how it affects every one of us? Let's take a look at all this alongside our reactions from our viewers when we return from this break. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria.
Why don't you people sell imported materials here? As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie. Buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced. Change begins with me too. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Another edition of TV Guide magazine is out with revealing accounts of trending stories. With the dwindling oil revenue, he says there is no reason to worry.
We strongly believe that culture is Nigerians' new oil. And we're going to show that by creating wealth, our art and culture will be a statement for all of us.
Our cover story is on Otumba Olumsegun Runchewe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture. For upcoming TV presenters, elegant Elizabeth Banu tells you what it takes. A peep into the activities of the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative, a mandate being fulfilled. A trip to the Yankari Games Reserve and Safari in Bauchi State brings you closer to nature. And the Oshun Oshogo Festival, our culture, our pride. Professor Adiku, the Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja, tells us what it means to manage a university, plus our regular features, star profile, media issues, relationships, young minds, entertainment, sports, and lots more. Pick your copy now at the vendors or at every NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, still your indispensable companion.
right, you're welcome back. But if you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We are reaching you as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As you can see from the caption on our screen, we are discussing a very serious subject matter, which of course has to do with a subsector of the economy, namely the insurance industry. We still have all our 4 guests, 2 in Lagos and then 2 with us here in the Abuja studios. As my colleague Blessing also indicated, we have reactions already coming in from our viewers by way of tweets. We take those tweets now and then we return to our guests. Dylan Jack Solomon says, for Nigeria's insurance industry to grow, certain changes will have to be made. And consumers need to be educated as to the life-changing and security net that insurance can provide, as well as the rights and obligations that result from an insurance contract.
And it continues, the insurance industry is a market with significant entry barriers, creating room for investment and profit gains. Let investors take advantage of the market with emerging middle class and a young and growing population. Our demographic profile in Nigeria is a big plus.
All right, Festus Akimboyewa tweets, now there's lack of confidence in Nigeria's insurance industry. Government and the insurance industry should ensure improved confidence in insurance products.
Well, for Ibrahim Tudu, he has this worry. Insurance companies are exploiting the ignorance of Nigerians to shortchange them. We need intervention of government and enforcement.
Sonny Makalomakoji, awareness and advocacy to keep Nigerians abreast, should be the way to go because many are ignorant of the operation of the insurance industry.
Now, for Ralph, it says the general perception of the insurance industry by many Nigerians is that insurance companies don't pay claims in time of misfortune.
And Ibrahim Tudu again has this tweet. We need sensitization, mobilization, and education on the benefits of insurance. Insurance has a huge potential to increase our GDP. Now, those are some of the tweets that we're taking in the meantime. Let's return to our guests in Lagos, both Ambassador Godson Echegile and Francis Ewerido. Gentlemen, I asked the question earlier, but of course, Francis Ewerido said, look, virtually anything can be insured. Let's be more specific now as to what can be insured. And my question first is going to Ambassador Echegile. Quite clearly, I mean, we have some big players in the Nigerian economy, as it were, no matter what the size. Oil and gas is the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. What is the level of participation of Nigerian companies in terms of insurance business in the oil industry? What is the level of Nigerian companies in terms of their participation in the aviation insurance? And of course, plus other things, because virtually all aircraft have to be, they are registered and they also have to be insured. How are we doing this? Some have complained about capital flight arising from the insurance industry. Why is this so?
For risks that are beyond the capacities of the insurance companies, they cede a percentage of that risk out by way of reinsurance. And that's why you find the big reinsurance are in the London market and the American market. So the bulk of this is placed in the London market. If you look at the capital of most local insurance companies, they are not that big enough to carry such huge risk. So if we have pooling of resources together, we might in the future create a bigger reinsurance company. We have some, but they are not that big enough to carry this jumbo risk. So we can't, for now, stop the issue of capital flight because we have to place them in bigger markets where we can spread the risk and in event of claim, get those bigger markets to help share the risk. On the tweets that we got so far, I think they are all pointing to the same direction that we started with. Products, pricing, and enforcement. These are the 3 critical issues there. You see, the product is very important. I must see the value that the product will offer me. If not, I will not buy. And the pricing must be right. And how do we get the pricing right? We get the pricing right when we get more people into that basket. Right now, with a population of over 170 million, we don't have enough in the insurance basket. That's why it's expensive. But what can we do to bring more people into that basket and reduce the price? If we do that, people will see value, the price will come down, you have more people participating in insurance. As for enforcement, I hope the practitioners will wake up. Government has done virtually everything they want for them. Oh, third-party insurance, building, they've given them all the compulsory insurance. You do not expect the federal government or the state government to create insurance police to help enforce these things. The practitioners have to find a way of getting marketing. It's like making a law, then you're asking government to drive the people there. Government won't drive people to come and insure. You are to go there, look for the market, the people to buy into those products. Faking, the practitioners will need to wake up and do something close to what NAFDAC did. Today you buy an anti-malaria pill. They give you a scratch number. You call to decide whether it's fake or genuine. The insurance practitioners have to find a way of reducing faking of these compulsory insurance papers. Thank you.
Mr. Werido, I'm sure you want to add to what Ambassador just talked about. Underwriting in oil and gas as well as aviation. Now, the constant move, capital flight is on. What exactly should be done in terms of coordination for practitioners?
Let's start from the oil and gas risk, and then the aircraft. Who funds them? How are they acquired? You find out that a lot of the time the money comes from abroad. Even many of our banks cannot fund some of these risks. And then who pays the piper dictates the tune. That is on one leg. Then for the oil and gas, for instance, the local content policy, I think, says about 40% of the risk should be domiciled within Nigeria. That is, local underwriters should take care of the 40%. But you find out that most of the time, the capacity is not really there. And these are very huge risks. So I believe that, yes, maybe the underwriters need to increase their capital base. They need to bring in more funds. But I still doubt if that would be enough. There should be collaboration as they have done in the past, where you can have like an aviation pool, an oil and allied risk pool, where the insurance companies who are parts of that pool resources together, and since there is strength in numbers, they will be able to take more percentage of the risk before they cede the rest out of the country through reinsurance. Then the other thing I want to say is when the banking industry was in crisis, the government came to their aid. They provided funds, they set up AMCON to take away some of those toxic loans. And then I don't believe that the government should wait for a crisis in the insurance sector before there's intervention. The government, for instance, can contribute about $500 million to like the aviation pool, and then the oil and allied risk pool. If they do that, more practitioners or more insurance companies will be willing to come in. And then that will create a massive capacity, and a lot of we'll be able to retain a lot more of the risk and cede out less. And then they are just putting this money down. Maybe in about 10 years, the pool would have created enough funds to refund government money. So it's not as if the money will end up being sunk fund. No. Government is not going to lose their money. It's just like giving the insurance industry the money to build their capacity. Even if it's okay, how many insurance industries can, how many insurance companies can grow their capital base to $500 million? Virtually none. Virtually none. So the government needs to intervene in that area. Then on the issue of the enforcement, the government made the laws. It's the practitioners, whether it's NIA, which represents the underwriters, or the NCRB, which represents the brokers, or the ones for ELAN, for loss adjusters, and the rest. They are not enforcing bodies. They are just professional bodies. So, fine, maybe they should take the initiative so that they can prompt government. Let's take, for instance, we know that most of these fake motor certificates are issued in government offices. If you get to the gate of a local government secretariat, there are mobile policemen and the rest who guard the gates. And then ordinary civilians, underwriters or brokers will walk in there, who want to come and see what happens here. Don't chase us away. Don't chase us away. So we need government backing. Our supervisory body, NICOM, also needs to come in there. They've done part of it in the past where the collaboration went out there and a lot was achieved. But we need to do a lot more of it. Because at the end of the day, these private individuals, for motor insurance alone, they deny government, they get about between 60 to 80 billion every year. If that money was coming to insurance companies, more people will be employed, capacity will be built, more taxes will be paid to state government as payee, federal government as VAT, and company income tax. So everybody stands to benefit, and everybody should come together to make sure that we weed out people who are faking these products. And if I might just even extend it a little, there have been times in the past where unregistered brokers brokered government businesses. We've seen that in the past. And then if they are registered, there's a likelihood that they don't have any obligation to remit to NICOM, for instance, because NICOM does not recognize them as registered insurance brokers. So the government needs to help the industry. I agree that the industry has a lot of work to do because right now my belief is that our life is still under the table. We need to put it on top of the table. Because much of the criticisms the industry is getting right now is because people don't even know what the industry is doing. We are like a young man who is winking at a lady in the dark. How is the lady going to know that this young man is interested in him, in her? How are prospective policy holders going to know that we really want them? We have a lot of work to do. Because I've looked through a lot of insurance companies' websites. The products, they have worked on their products. They have worked on their products.
Francis Ewerido, thank you very much again. Of course, we'll return to you gentlemen in Lagos. Well, back here in Abuja studios, Titus Abe, let's start off with you again and then come back to Pomodu Musa Jove. The recapitalization of the insurance industry came on the heels of recapitalization in the banking subsector, along, of course, with M&A. That's to say mergers and acquisitions. But despite the recapitalization in the insurance industry, it would appear that the insurance companies in Nigeria are still fishing in shallow waters. When can you move on to the deep waters to fish? I mean, we're all complaining about, okay, you're not big enough, you're not big enough. Who's going to give you muscles?
Yeah, thank you very much. You discovered that some years back, the level of capitalization of insurance company and banks was at par. It's about, I think, 1 million. There was a time it was like 1 million naira. Then it rose. Then as at 2003, if you want to set up a life insurance company, you need to have 150 million capital. Then for a general insurance company, 200 million. Then for the composite, 350 million naira. But after that, the level of capitalization rose from that to life insurance company, 2 billion naira. General insurance company, 3 billion naira. Composite, 5 billion. Then for reinsurance, 10 billion. Now, from what we have discussed and from what is so obvious, this level of capitalization is still very low, very, very low. Because when we are talking of capital flight in the insurances of the oil and gas industry, it's simply aviation. It's simply because of the capacity of the insurance company. We've seen life insurance companies, after paying claims, they go under. Well, we don't want that to happen again. So that's why I think the industry should look into that area more critically, and there can't be a better time to do it than now, because the industry is losing out a lot. And not just the industry, it's the nation as well.
Why, I mean, we keep talking about attracting foreign investors. I mean, obviously, this should be an attractive area for investors to say, look, come and invest in insurance companies. What is the disincentive for foreign investors, potential foreign investors in the insurance industry?
Thank you very much. You know, you cannot isolate the insurance industry from what is happening in the larger society. Now, a lot of things. There are so many factors like the political scene, the larger economy, and all that. So an investor coming into the country is not only going to look at his area of interest alone. He will look at everything holistically. So everything boils down to the fact that, you know, I'm the kind of person that doesn't believe in, you know, trying to put all your responsibilities on the government at all times. But at the same time, we can't shy away from it. You know, by the time someone is coming in with maybe $100 million or whatever amount of money is coming in, and when he lands, and if they notice that there is one bomb sound somewhere, there's insurgency somewhere, I mean, put yourself in their shoes. You want to...
those are insurable interests
as well.
Oh, yeah, they are insurable. But right now, we still boils down to what we are saying. We do not have the capacity to insure those things yet.
Insurance companies do not have such capacity.
They do not have such as of today. That's why we keep, you know, seeding some of those things outside the country. Now, let's look at another angle. In fact, we are even looking far fetched. Let's come down home. Now, in Nigeria, we have about, we're supposed to have 180 million people. And from the records today, only 3 million people are insured. 3 million. You can look at the difference. So even if we concentrate on the retail aspect, the individual, it's a whole lot of...
Why have you failed to concentrate on, I mean, of course, they talked about, Ambassador Chegide already talked about the PPE, that's to say your product pricing and enforcement. Mamadou Musa Jolof, let's bring you in again into this. Of course, a number of issues on the table already.
Yes, I think slightly different in the question of capacity. I wish to quote that when we had this disaster in America, the 9/11, the following year, insurance rates globally were revised upwards because insurance is such that it does not bite more than it can chew. That those companies in America would have reinsured with Africa Re, with Swiss Re, with Munich Re, so that insurance takes, the ceding company takes the risk, but would retain to its capacity and pass on to another insurance company, co-insurance. So what one is saying here is better for government and the regulator, that the regulator already is doing all its best. Certainly, even if you just cede reinsurance overseas, not following the regulations that are given, you are penalized. So that what we are saying is they are trying to maintain more of the risk, more of capital within the economy to boost economic growth. That is to say, let's encourage co-insurance where one company takes to its capacity and passes on to another company, and that other company, so that that which goes out to Lloyd's or wherever outside is less. And the big muscle that says, I have an aircraft, oh, I don't want to insure locally because they don't have the capacity. I'm dealing with Prudential in America. I want to deal with Lloyd's. They're not helping the economy, because by the time you insure directly there, the government is not benefiting, the people in the industry is not benefiting. But if you go to a local company, it would never exceed its capacity. It will take its capacity and the rest it will pass to another company within the economy, and that by that way, when there is a loss, we pool together to settle a claim. The capacity
is capital based on this.
Are the practitioners ready to even pool such capacity together?
But that's what I'm saying. The regulators are doing their best to make sure that you do not go a certain percentage reinsurance overseas. They're encouraging us to co-insure. That is to say, to retain as much as possible. And this should be the case. It shouldn't be that, we don't have the capacity. Capital must be allowed to be flying. When you insure, let's say I have an aircraft. I have an aircraft to insure. Let's say it's $500 billion. My retention capacity as a company, a seeding company that you come to, is just 50 million. I take 50 million, pass on to Livingstone. Livingstone pass on to African Alliance. Then that way we are saying that which goes out, we are paid a percentage, reinsurance commission, still retaining, so that if we retain 80% and 20 is going out, that 20 going out, they still pay us 30% of that 20 as reinsurance. So it's still helping the economic growth. Rather than you, the owner of the aircraft, going straight to them. There is no retention to help our economy. There is no reinsurance commission to retain within the economy, so that we are not encouraging employment, pay tax and all that is all flying out.
All right, Momodu, thank you very much. Let's return to Lagos. Ambassador Echegile and Francis Owerri still with us in our Lagos Network Center. Gentlemen, beginning first with Ambassador Echegile, to what extent are distortions in the macroeconomic environment also an impediment to the growth of the insurance industry, particularly with regard, for instance, to life insurance? I recall 25 years ago, somebody would come to you and say, look, insure a life for 100,000 naira, which was a lot of money at the time, by the way, 100,000. Today, 100,000 is virtually nothing. I'm just looking at that with regard to life insurance. So to what extent, therefore, have we seen the negative impacts of distortions or wide gyrations in the macroeconomic environment?
Such distortions or movements in the economy are priced or fashioned along with the product. Their product, their life insurance policies that are indexed against inflation, against other indices in the economy. So that wouldn't be a problem. And I think the issue there is creating, I'm coming back to where I started from, creating the right policies. So even if you have that level of gyration in the system, fashion products that will address that. And this creation of product requires some level of training and capacity. So it brings me back to the carrying capacity of the departments offering insurance and actuarial science. If we increase the carrying capacity of, say, University of Lagos and ABU, and develop new programs in some of our universities and polytechnics, we might be able to produce products that can index or create products that will address situations like this. Yes, there are foreign interests coming in lately. We've seen Old Mutual, we've seen 2 other big players coming in. I don't think they are coming in for the big risk like what you have in the oil and the aviation. They are coming in to address that gap that we fail to capture. Like he said, out of a population of 170, we're only dealing with 3 million. So you can see a huge gap of 167 million. I think that's what those foreign companies are coming to market and key in and see if they can design products that will capture, bring more people into the insurance net. And we can only do that if we have people who are knowledgeable in the business, who are ready to put their thinking cap on and create those products at the appropriate price to address situations like that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's get the views also on this subject from Francis Owerri. Francis, what are your thoughts with regard to the impact of the macroeconomic environment on the insurance subsector?
I think it's both positive and negative. Negative, for instance, is the fact that people's disposable income has not kept pace with the rate of inflation. And so while somebody maybe who was earning 50,000 naira per month last year, still earning 50,000 naira this year, what he can buy with that 50,000 naira is a lot less than what he could buy last year. Then on the positive aspect, what insurance does is to ensure uncertainty. and we are in a more uncertain we are in more uncertain times. So this is even the time for people to embrace insurance. Like I said, part of the problem too is that the products that they have, people are not even aware of a lot of these products. Take, for instance, there's a lot of unemployment, and people are not even sure of their jobs. Right now in the market, there's a product, salary protection insurance, whereby if you lose your job, depending on the sum insured, you earn 100% of your salary for the first 6 months, 75% the next 6 months, 50% the next 6 months, and then finally 25% before it ceases. There's even a component for within that period for total and temporary disability, and then even death for the policy holder. Many people are not aware of that because that is the kind of policy every salaried person should be taking, so that at the end of the day, they don't get, if they lose their jobs, they are sure that for the next 24 months, something will come. So that is one of them. And then the farmers, for instance, in Benue State, by next year, nobody should tell them that they should rush and take insurance. I just see a huge market in that part of the country because they need to take their farmers' insurance against flood and other things. Like you said, during the rainy season, during the dry season, fire is going to come. They take insurance. The farmers' insurance will take care of whether it's flood, whether it's fire. And you mentioned markets earlier. I remember there was an article I wrote that was published in the national newspaper on need for compulsory fire insurance for markets. Because you find that most of the time, maybe still the problem with awareness. People do market these markets. They go to the market to market the traders there. But most of the time, they don't take these policies. So there's a huge market, and but everybody needs to put hands together to tap into the huge market. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Francis Ewedo, thank you very much. You were talking earlier about the salary protection insurance. I mean, these are the kind of stories that Nigerians would hear from abroad. You say, listen, a gentleman or a lady is out of work abroad, and then, of course, he or she is still getting some money. But if such products are available here, how come? What is wrong with the marketing aspect of the insurance industry in Nigeria? Why? I mean, do you have all these products and the things that are right there in your drawers? I'm not saying you.
Can I just respond to that?
Please.
Into the insurance industry, I came in as a media person, and one of the problems there was this low awareness. A lot of progress has been made because then, 23 years ago, I don't think 500,000 Nigerians even had policies. Now we just had that there are 3 million. But a lot of work still needs to be done. It needs to be approached at many levels. The companies themselves need to push these new products to into public awareness. It is the truth that when I look at the issue of capitalization, I think it affects the amount of money that they can put into publicity and marketing, for instance. It affects it. But beyond that, the professional bodies can come together, and as NCRB is doing, they are creating a lot of awareness, running programs on radio, newspapers, and all the rest. But it's still not enough. Everybody needs to get involved. At the individual level, I believe we practitioners should use our Facebook pages, Twitter handles, and whatever we have to market insurance. I do that. I do that, insurance education and the rest. And the response has been wonderful. So I think everybody needs to put his hands on deck to make sure that the culture of insurance is deepened. Then beyond that, if I might just add again, government still has a lot of role to play. I'll be talking about culture. Culture is a way of life. While we are doing it to the current insuring public, we must make sure that the problem does not persist. So I believe that insurance, for instance, should be taught at this stage in primary and secondary schools, just the minimum. Let the children know, for instance, that they can use insurance to protect their assets. when they get to 18. Even as at now, they know that their parents can take insurance on their behalf until they get to majority. So, but that is the long term. On the short term, we all need to put our hands on deck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Werido. Growth prospects, no doubt, are robust, but so are the risk involved as well. Let's take a look at the set of tweets that we have, and we'll call it a wrap on this discussion on Good Morning Nigeria for today. Ralph says, these days, the insurance companies are not even doing enough to sensitize people in terms of advertising or promotion, which is what we have just talked about.
Okay, we have this tweet from Dike Samuel. It says, if NICOM, that's the insurance regulator, can curb the high level of corruption in the insurance industry, the insured will have faith in the industry. From
Victor Ediaboya says, fake motor insurance are masterminded by government officials in charge of vehicle registration. This is criminal. That is corruption.
Douglas Orafa tweets, marketing of insurance products is the bane. Claims are marketed like voodoo. And buyers want to witness voodoo claims.
From Festus Akinboyewa is this tweet, customers must be treated fairly and transparently, as done in developed countries, if we must maximize the potentials of our insurance industry.
Ibrahim Tudu tweets, insurance is made so technical, and therefore it makes it, of course, impossible for Nigerians to embrace it. We need different kinds of packaging.
Ibrahim continues, I think Sukuk is making headway. Currently, I'm trying it, but they have a long way to go.
Now, Mohammed Bello tweets, it says, asking for insurance enforcement, the fear is that if it is enforced, they will ask us to pay our wife's insurance. Please let it be voluntary.
Okay, I look forward to that. Festus Akinboyewa says that should be action by Nigeria's insurance industry to improve transparency and simplicity in insurance business in Nigeria.
Ibrahim Tudu tweets, even Akara sellers sometimes advertise their product, but insurance companies don't sensitize the public about their policies. They are enjoying the status quo.
Comrade Danjuma says the cause of failure in insurance is as a result of the inability of insurance companies to adequately train their staff.
And this is from Bright Irene. It says, why the Nigerian government has not made it mandatory to pay as you earn for health. Sorry, why has the Nigerian government not made it mandatory to pay as you earn for health insurance? Is it only car that matters?
This tweet is from Mike Ayako. Insurance is very vital in a country's economic emancipation. The challenge in Nigeria is that a lot has lost confidence in business.
All right, now those are the set of tweets that we can take. In the meantime, we would like to appreciate all our 4 guests who've been with us, and we do hope that the insurance industry will pick up the challenge right from here, rather blessing, instead of bothering about. There was something they also introduced, 50 naira for road transport, exactly. Passengers and so on and so forth. 50 naira, those are small end. Let's go to the higher end and, of course, deeper end of the waters. We'd like to appreciate Titus Abe, CEO of Livingstone Insurance, has been with us here in the Abuja studios. Thanks a lot for your contribution. Thank you very much. Also, the CEO of Jay's Takaful Insurance, Mamadou Musa Jouf. Thanks a lot. Jaiz. Almost like jazz. Jaiz Takaful. Thanks a lot for your contribution to our for our discussion this morning. And from Lagos, thanks to Francis Ewerido, Chartered Insurance Broker and CEO of Titan Insurance Brokers. Thanks a lot as well to Ambassador Godson Echegele, Managing Partner, Equitable Acquisition Limited. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for your insights. You join us from our Lagos Network studios. Let's move on now to sports.
The Nigerian senior Globe say Hurricane Irma now in west coast of Florida and is said to be bearing down on the city of Tampa. It made landfall on Marco Island off Florida's west coast with winds of up to 192 km per hour, but has downgraded from Category 3 to Category 2. Reports have it that over 3.4 million homes are without water and parts of the city of Miami underwater. 3 deaths have been reported as the National Hurricane Center, NHC, says conditions will continue across portions of Central Florida Peninsula and currently has maximum sustained winds of 160 km per hour. Earlier, Hurricane Irma devastated parts of the Caribbean, killing 28 people, while some 6.3 million people in Florida have been told to evacuate. President Donald Trump, is said, has approved a major disaster declaration and emergency federal aid for Florida. And from Somalia comes a report that an attack claimed by the armed group Al-Shabaab targets the governor's office in a bid to topple the Western-backed government and drive out African Union troops. At least 6 people are reported killed after a suicide bomber blew himself up in a restaurant just outside a senior official's office in the central Somali city. The Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab group statement indicates that it was behind the attack and that the armed group wants to impose its strict interpretation of Islam in Somalia. And that does it for now. More reports as the day progresses. Do have a blessed day.
Well, thank you for watching. Good Morning Nigeria's edition for today. We hope to be back tomorrow with another interesting package. We hope you find time to join us then. My name is Blessing Abu. I wish you well. And I'm Kingsley Osalala. See you tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Before then, enjoy the rest of your day.